the specific sectors to watch out for here in 2026, and even a timeline for what could happen in the stock market over this next year, which I'm very much on board with.
Because you think 7,700 by the end of 2026, with a 15 to 20% correction at some point in the second half of the year.
Yeah, like compressed in 1 year will be joy, depression, and rally, right? I think just like last year, in 2025, we had a terrible start. People got very gloomy. Then we had a nice rally to finish the year.
You mean April was the peak
April was the low.
Of Liberation Day.
So I think because, the market will test the new Fed, that probably is the reason we have some fear this year. But there's a lot of things to be optimistic about. The tariffs are anniversarying, the Fed is cutting. And, the ISM could finally turn back above 50, and that's good news. And, we are pretty optimistic about some groups that have lagged, like energy is one of our top sector picks this year.
With the Mag 7.
And the Mag 7 still keep producing good earnings growth. And then the financials and small caps. So it's like a lot of things that could go right in the market.
So one thing to highlight there is that he talked about energy specifically. We're already seeing this mainly because of what happened in Venezuela earlier in the week, but energy and oil stocks have been very up on the news. And just so we all know, SCHD is very heavy in energy as its biggest sector. This was seen as a negative last year, but it's looking like this may be a key reason it's actually outperforming so far in 2026. We gotta be patient as investors. I see so many people down in the comment section say something like, I tried SCHD for 3 months and it was a dog and so I got rid of it. Well, that's not how you invest, but we'll talk about that on a different video. So I thought it would be a good idea to compile a list and why it might be a good idea to be watching these specific stocks. Now, all these stocks are in the energy sector, but they're different types of energy. So the first one is in integrated oil and gas, and that's Chevron, CVX, and they have strong free cash flow and a reliable dividend. Then there's ExxonMobil, XOM, which has diversified operations in oil, gas, chemicals, and long-term projects that benefit from sustained global energy demand and inflation protection. Then looking at renewables and utilities, one of my favorites there is NEE, Next Era Energy. They're a leader in wind, solar, and battery storage with regulated utility stability. And there's a couple in the hydrogen and emerging clean technologies. I would definitely research hydrogen specifically. And then a huge one lately has all been around nuclear and uranium. So CCJ is one of the world's largest uranium producers with long-term contracts. And then NXE is the high-grade uranium developer with leverage to uranium price upside as nuclear capacity expands globally. Take a look at those at some point and do your research. But like I said before, SCHD has a heavy amount of energy in it, and right now it's doing well because of it. But one of the other things that Tom Lee highlights later on in this video has to do with Bitcoin, and he predicts that it's gonna hit 250,000 pretty easily here in 2020.
This is how I tricked my brother into cleaning my room. Ew.
Oh, yeah, in 2026, if Bitcoin gets to 200 or 250,000, it would be breaking the 4-year cycle. So that's sort of part of our view is that, if you follow the 4-year cycle, Bitcoin should be down this year. But I think that there's tailwinds that are building. And part of it is we kind of reset leverage on October 10th with that big shock.
Right.
And now I think there is still institutional adoption taking place, and Wall Street is still building a lot of products on the blockchain. And then we have US government support. So I think these are tailwinds that help Bitcoin recover this year.
And even though people have pointed out the divergence from gold and silver, you think with gold and silver doing well, eventually Bitcoin benefits from that trade?
Yeah, it does look like gold rallies typically lead Bitcoin rallies. So I think it's been healthy for gold to rally. Part of it's, dollar debasement, and now with monetary easing, those are things that are supportive of crypto to follow. As you know, crypto adoption rates are still quite low. So crypto has sort of an exponential growth opportunity because the adoption is increasing.
Now that last piece was incredibly interesting, and I'd agree. A very strong bull market in gold last year is leaving people with so much profit that they're now moving that profit to assets that are down in comparison, and Bitcoin is well within that. I've seen many of my actual private clients doing this exact strategy, so he's absolutely correct. Now, earlier in his talk, he talked about how he could see the stock market dropping in the early or mid-year in 2026, and then from there having a nice strong rise with some tailwinds that just keep going through 2027.
So let's get right into it with Zscaler, ticker ZS, up 25% last year, and later I'll show you how to use this stock to replace your job. Those of you in the nation know cybersecurity is one of my favorite long-term growth themes, and ZS is one of the best values in this group. Folks, with 2 and 3 Fortune 500 companies getting hit by a cyber attack each year, and those attacks costing an average $5 million in damage, cybersecurity is the one part of the IT budget that cannot be cut. In fact, spending on cybersecurity is almost 7% of overall IT spend and is forecast to grow at a 12% rate each year. But while I love that overall cybersecurity theme and a lot of the stocks in that group, you can find even faster growth and higher returns looking deeper into the segments within the industry. While firewall and SIEM software is only expected to grow a revenue at around 5 to 11% pace each year, other segments within the industry, like SASE and cloud security, are growing much faster, revenue growth as high as 18% a year. And that is where Zscaler comes in. I dug into the top cybersecurity stocks, researching in which segments each of them competes to build out this table and show not only where each company participates, but which is the dominant player in each segment. Zscaler has a competitive advantage in 2 of those highest growth segments, cloud security and SASE, while also participating in that AI agentic security. ZS changed the game more than a decade ago, disrupting the legacy model of security from a network architecture to a zero-trust model. Now that zero-trust paradigm is the standard everyone uses, but ZS has kept that competitive advantage with over 50 million users. Updating our stats here in this cybersecurity group of stocks, Zscaler has the second highest revenue growth at 21% and is one of the least expensive on a PE valuation adjusted for its growth. This stock price could double here, and it would still be less expensive than CrowdStrike or Cloudflare. I know it is a lot of work, the research and digging into these numbers, but folks, this is the kind of analysis you need to be doing to find those stocks that are going to replace your job. If you want your investments to go pro, you need to start thinking like a professional investor. I'm going to show you how Zscaler can replace your job next, but this is possible. Closing up last year, I made a 145% return in my main brokerage account here, blowing away the 17% return on the S&P 500 index. And it wasn't just last year. Over the 3-year period, the account has produced a 27% annualized return, up 105% versus the 80% return on that stock index. From that previous video, not all the stocks have jumped higher, like the 178% return on Symbotic. I still like Supermicrocomputer, ticker SMCI, and I'm holding on to that one, but the stock has been an absolute dog last year, down 30% since February. But here, it's the overall return, that 77% average return on all 5 that is going to grow your portfolio to replace your job. Nation, when I think of how much I made my entire 4 years I was in the Marine Corps, not even $55,000 in base pay for all 4 years. Here is the monthly pay chart back in 1999, the year I went in, making less than $1,000 a month in boot camp, and even by the time I got out as a corporal, only just over $1,300 a month. Now I can make more money on my stocks in a month than my entire enlistment, but I guess I don't get the free haircut, so maybe it's a wash. But then even if you're making that median personal income right now, that $42,000 a year, it is possible to replace that with the 5 stocks in this video. And here I've got 2 stocks for the next group, stocks to get you retired within 10 years. And starting here with shares of Alibaba Holdings, ticker BABA, up 73% last year. Trump's 180 on allowing NVIDIA chip exports to China changes the game for the world's second largest economy, boosting its AI development with those faster chips. That, combined with the country's advantage in power generation, nearly 3 times the power capacity we have here in the United States, means China could leapfrog in that AI race. Nation power generation has been another big supply constraint for AI, with those traditional delivery infrastructure taking as much as 10 years to build. Without that problem, with all the power generation they need, and now faster chips, investors need to be watching the AI space in China. And here, not only is Alibaba the e-commerce and cloud king there in the country, but its Quinn AI model is one of the best available, outperforming other non-reasoning models, even holding itself up against majors like GPT, Grok, and Cloud. Sales are only expected to grow 10% over the next year, so I wouldn't expect the shares to produce that same 73% return every year. But at a 2.4 times on a price to sales basis, this stock is cheap for that potential. A valuation back up to just 4 times sales, plus that annualized 15% revenue pace, that would produce a 20% annual return over the next decade for more than 6 times your money. And then this next stock is going to surprise nobody in the Bowtie Nation, SoundHound AI, ticker SOUN, with a new opportunity to buy my favorite next generation AI stock. I started buying SoundHound February 2024 under $5 a share, and we've seen it make multiple runs beyond $20 each before coming back down recently. But folks, that upside is still there, and this company will lead the AI revolution. Its unique speech-to-meaning platform translates directly from speech into AI rather than having to translate it to text first like other voice assistants. That means real-world speed that will make this the go-to voice assistant. And it's already helped the company sign partnerships with car makers Hyundai, Stellantis, Kia, and Fiat, and in drive-thrus with White Castle and Church's Chicken. And just to put all this into perspective, that $160 billion market opportunity, of which SoundHound is the dominant player right now, that against forecasted sales of just $168 million this year, even a 5% market share of that $160 billion potential, $8 billion in annual revenue, would be 47 times increase to the company. And here, just back up to last year's high is double your money, but this is a $100 billion company in the making, and that's going to produce the kind of return you need to change your life. Just like we saw from 20 to 15, replacing your job in 10 years instead of 15 is going to mean investing a little more. There's just no way around it. Now, I have this chart modeled on investing $2,000 a year and a 55% return through 10 years until you're living off your portfolio. More importantly, though, understand that you can control this, that adding just a little more each month, how much you invest, you put that return you need within reach. By investing just $500 a month, you drop that return required to just 35%, easily within reason